Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon. I'm Ali Falla here with your 2:15 news in the afternoon. Two earthquakes near Haida, Hawaii in the past week serve as a reminder of the looming threat of earthquakes in BC. Our reporter Tyler Bereskin has more information on why earthquakes are common on the West Coast and the preparation that is taking place.
The province of BC is near several active earthquake zones. This is due to the very active plate movement in the area, which results in frequent earthquakes of different scales. John Cassidy, an earthquake seismologist with Natural Resources Canada, says one way to stay prepared is seismic upgrading.
And in terms of our building codes that are improving, they're updated every 5 years to incorporate the latest earthquake information and the latest engineering information.
Cassidy added that overall awareness continues to improve about earthquakes, but that there is still a lot to do to remain fully prepared. Tyler Bereskin, BCIT News.
British Columbia's police agency is investigating the death of a woman who fell from Vancouver's Granville Street Bridge. The Independent Investigations Office says the incident began around 3 p.m. on Tuesday. This office also says the bridge was shut and officers tried to communicate with the woman for several hours before she fell to her death around 12:30 a.m. on Wednesday. The IIO says it has launched an investigation into this case that will initially consider if police action or inaction played a role in the woman's death. After this, Crisis Center BC has issued a letter to the city of Vancouver in which they have criticized council's decision to remove funding for suicide barriers on the bridge from its 2027-2030 budget plan. According to Toronto's largest food bank, Canada has great food safety records, but it's also the largest food waster in the world. Reporter Izzy Morgan reports.
A new report from a Toronto-based food rescue organization, Second Harvest, shows almost a quarter of avoidable food waste comes from consumer confusion due to outdated practices regarding food date labeling. Anna Gray is with the Food Stash Foundation and explained this avoidable misunderstanding.
People think that best before date means expiry date. So once the date has passed, the food item that you have has gone bad. And most of the time that is not the case.
Gray encourages people to smell products and inspect them for mold before deciding whether they're safe to eat, rather than glancing at the best before date. Izzy Morgan, BCIT News.
Despite the economic situation, the fashion industry in Canada continues to grow according to industry experts. Reporter Denane Tingala has more.
As demand increases, some educators question whether there are enough graduates entering the field to keep up with the growing fashion industry. Celine Jackson, a home economics teacher at Jan Burnett Secondary School, says there is growing concern about if opportunities can be offered to students.
There is basically a lack of home ec teachers at the moment and trying to get them in the district.
Jackson says student interest in textiles and fashion-related courses is strong but are halted due to staffing shortages and parents undervaluing the course. This has been Denane Tingala, BCIT News.
One of Canada's largest redevelopments, the official opening of Oak Ridge Park Mall, is taking place this month. Megan Onakdat gives you more information on this.
Oak Ridge Mall is reopening later this month, featuring 650,000 square feet of retail space. Developers describing this project as futuristic, it doesn't just bring back shoppers. Local businesses and investors are seeing this as an opportunity to establish their presence in Vancouver. Dining will also be a part of the grand opening, featuring Time Out Market that will showcase a number of chefs and local restaurants. Oak Ridge Mall officially opens May 28th at 11 a.m. Megan Unadkat, BCIT News.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government is open to selling public assets if the proceeds could help fund new infrastructure. A Transport Ministry discussion paper suggests the government is also open to merge some key ports while selling others. Carney says he doesn't see selling ports as a top priority, but the government will be transparent.
Are we looking, and we're very transparent about it, are we looking in certain cases of, are there assets that the federal government has that we could recycle the investment into supporting building new assets? Airports is an example that is out there.
Gas prices are still rising amid the war with Iran, with oil hovering above $100 a barrel. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze reports.
One thing to keep in mind is that the U.S. is exporting a record amount of oil right now. That has helped keep a little bit of cap on oil around this $100 marker, according to a lot of the analysts I've been talking to. But we are also seeing oil inventories now go down because the U.S. is sending out a lot more oil than it was before the war. Big picture, oil at this level, where we are, $100, is going to cost the typical American household about $1,200 extra in gas and diesel costs over a year.
In today's meetings in Beijing, the Chinese President Xi Jinping told Trump China and the US should be partners, not rivals. On the other side, Trump called Xi a great leader. But tensions are still there over the issues of Taiwan and Iran. ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang is in Beijing with more on the Iran and the Strait of Hormuz conflict.
The U.S. readout mentioned that both leaders agree the strait needs to be open, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But we didn't get any of that from the Chinese readout. No mention of the strait or even Iran at all by name, which reflects what experts have been telling me, which is that while Beijing wants this war to end, they see it as America's problem to solve. They don't want to get pulled in too deeply.
Efforts to unseat Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer have erupted into open rebellion within the Labour Party. Danica Kerka gives you more information on this.
Britain's Prime Minister is clinging to power after a member of his cabinet resigned, saying he didn't have confidence in the boss. Now, West Reading is the health secretary, and that's a big job in this country. Reading said that he was resigning, even though he gave credit to the Prime Minister for his efforts on the international stage, particularly with Iran. Domestically, he said that the country was looking for vision and got a vacuum, that they were looking for direction and got drift. This has really shaken the Prime Minister. It's an open rebellion on the same day that another leadership contender, Angela Rayner, announced that she had bypassed a fundamental problem that she had with her leadership bid, which was that she was being investigated for tax purposes on a home sale. You can really see that Starmer's challengers are lining up to get him.
Canadian music superstar Drake is dropping his much-anticipated Iceman album tonight. Reporter Noah Peckham provides the details of the album.
Drake will be dropping his first solo album since 2023. Drake started his Iceman album rollout by dropping his hit single, What Did I Miss, on July 5th last year.
What did I miss? What did I miss?
He continued on July 24th, releasing Which One, a song with British artist Central C. Drake then went silent for a few months before reappearing this year on April 20th with his infamous ice sculpture in Toronto. On April 21st, he announced Iceman would be coming out on May 15th. The album is expected to be released at 9 p.m. tonight. Noah Peckham, BCIT News.
In weather, Burnaby is going to be partly cloudy today with temperature fluctuating around 15 degrees Celsius. Humidity level is standing at 71%. And just right now, we got an update on the meeting at the United States. Actually, sorry, on the NFL, that in football news, the NFL just a second. Actually, we are running out of time. Thank you for watching the news today. It was all. Have a great day.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to
Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, I'm Matthew Wong, and here are 2:30 p.m. sports headlines. Baseball fans in the Lower Mainland can head to the Nat tonight, where the High A Vancouver Canadians host the Everett Aquasox at Scotiabank Field at Nat Bailey Stadium. First pitch is at 7:05 p.m. Over to hockey, the Vancouver Canucks announced today that Daniel and Henrik Sedin have been promoted to co-presidents of hockey operations, and Ryan Johnson has been named the 13th general manager in franchise history. To soccer, the Vancouver Whitecaps are coming off an important 3-2 road win last night over FC Dallas at Toyota Stadium. Next up, the Caps will visit Houston Dynamo on Saturday at Shell Energy Stadium with kickoff at 5:30 p.m. Vancouver looks to extend what national outlets describe as a dominant start to their 2026 campaign. Following with more Whitecaps news, there's a new push to keep the Whitecaps Major League Soccer team in Vancouver for generations to come. The City of Vancouver, the BC government, First Nations, and the Crown Corporation that owns BC Place say they are working with private partners to try to make this happen. Reporters in Ottawa asked Prime Minister Mark Carney about the Whitecaps today.
In terms of the Whitecaps specifically, I'm not personally involved in that. I would obviously like them to stay, but I don't have anything to say on that at this point.
Over to the NFL. A legal fight over hiring for top positions in the NFL has led to Florida Attorney General issuing an investigation to the league, claiming its diversity hiring practices violate state law.
The dispute centers on the NFL's so-called Rooney Rule. Back in March, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer threatened possible legal action against the NFL unless it suspended the rule. The move prompted the league to revise parts of the policy, saying it expands the pool of candidates considered, adding final hiring decisions remain with each club. But Uthmeyer says those changes don't go far enough, saying yesterday in a letter to the NFL, "You assert the rule does not impose any hiring quotas. We are not convinced."
Here's a full update on the expansion wave of PWHL teams that includes Hamilton, Ontario. Rob Westgate from the Canadian Press has more.
The league says Hamilton, Ontario will be home to the newest PWHL team alongside Las Vegas and Detroit. The expansion clubs will start for the 2026-27 season, and the league is expected to add one more team to reach 12 franchises. The PWHL was formed in 2024 with 6 teams in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, New York, and Minnesota. Vancouver and Seattle joined in 2025. Make that she shoots, she scores. Rob Westgate, the Canadian Press.
The Montreal Canadiens and Buffalo Sabres are set for tonight's Game 5 with their second-round playoff series tied at 2-2. Montreal fell 3-2 on home ice Sunday, but has not lost back-to-back games at any point this spring. Canadiens winger Josh Anderson says the belief remains high in his team's locker room.
We have all the confidence in our group, especially the way that we've been playing as a team, and going into this series, I like the way we handled our play 5-on-5 and what we can create in the offensive zone. And I think we've had a lot of looks in this series.
Game 6 goes Saturday night in Montreal. Game 7, if necessary, will be back in Buffalo on Monday. Back in Vancouver, BC Place is essentially ready to become a World Cup venue after nearly $180 million in upgrades, including a new natural grass surface and its improvements throughout the stadium to meet FIFA standards. The province is set to hand over the building to FIFA this week so final tournament preparations can begin. Ahead of 7 World Cup games, the city, starting in June 13th. For basketball fans here in BC, the NBA playoffs continue with games that land nicely in our evening window. In the East, Cleveland now leads with 3-2 over Detroit tomorrow, and Game 6 will happen tomorrow in Cleveland at 4 p.m. Pacific, with a potential Game 7 in Detroit on Sunday. Out west, San Antonio holds a 3-2 edge over Minnesota, with Game 6 in Minneapolis scheduled for Friday at 6:30 p.m., and a possible Game 7 in Texas on Sunday. That's all for your 2:30 p.m. sports headlines. I'm Matthew Wong, and thanks for listening to BCIT News.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you